Hello, everyone, and welcome. This panel is part of a series for National Apprenticeship Week 2021. Through this series, Bitwise Industries is proud to share the journey of pre-apprentice to journey worker, from inception of the Bitwise Industries model to the successful program that we have today. Today, we will chat with some of the humans who have helped shape Bitwise Industries' workforce training program into what it is today. My name is Chris Morita, Director for Growth and Recruitment, responsible for helping spread the word of the wonderful life-changing opportunities that Bitwise Industries offers. Today, we're here with a wonderful panel who has helped transform this program and continues to provide opportunities to individuals within our communities.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danita Ramos. I am currently the VP of Workforce Training here at Bitwise. A little bit about myself. I spent 10 years in traditional education. I worked for a K-8 school. I was a junior high teacher and a school administrator, and I absolutely loved the education system and all of our students, and worked with a lot of students from rural backgrounds. I transitioned to Executive Director of Geekwise Academy a few years ago, and have had the great opportunity to work with some of these folks on the panel and have been able to transform lives sitting next to them every day. And I couldn't ask for a better job and a better team. So I really appreciate being here today as well.
Hi, my name is Jason Cooksey, currently a sales engineer, previously a developer fellow. I was hired by Bitwise 6 years ago. My original job was to teach and also work on development projects and then lead cohorts. Over the course of time, that has changed. We went from the cohort to the apprenticeship model. My career prior to joining Bitwise was kind of all over the place. I've owned several businesses. I've taught at the community college level, and was a youth pastor for a number of years, and just absolutely love what Bitwise is doing and love to be a part of this team.
Hi, pals. My name's Stephanie Moreno, and I'm the VP of Student Experience. And my journey actually with Bitwise begun when I was working in the education industry. So I worked in education for 18 years before I transitioned over into Bitwise. And the way that I transitioned is pretty unique. I was offered an opportunity to take a course, a specialized course for women, and took that class and learned how to code and presented and showcased a project at the end. And so I feel like that has allowed for me to have a whole new perspective on everything from the student journey to apprenticeship, all the way into their career trajectory. So it's been an absolute pleasure. I've been with the company a little over 2 years, and it's just been such phenomenal growth. I started as a student success specialist in supporting the students in their evening courses, and now as the VP of Student Experience, have the amazing privilege of working with the team that supports the students to be able to, be their best selves.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for your introductions, and thank you all so much for being here today. We have some really important questions to get to, and I think that what you've been able to contribute to this program and your experience will be able to provide all the individuals who are wondering, is this an opportunity that I should take advantage of? Is this something that I should be a part of? I think that your insight today will be able to provide them with a lot of information to help them make that decision. So let's jump right to our questions. And we're going to kick it off with Jason answering our first question. Tell us a little bit more about your life background. Where are you from, and what you did prior to joining the Bitwise team?
So I was born in Fresno, raised at the Central Coast and Los Angeles. I moved around a lot. I learned to make friends quickly. And from the very beginning, I feel like I was always teaching folks something. In third grade, I taught karate at lunch, but I know nothing about karate at all. But it was just a way for me to make friends and get to know people. And I can kind of, looking through the trajectory of my life, see where everything that I've done, there's been some flavor of teaching or education into that. I really love helping people see potential in themselves and gaining confidence. That's really been a tremendous asset for what I do with the cohorts, with the apprenticeships here at Bitwise. It's such an important thing that we're doing here, and I love that I'm able to be a part of that.
Thank you so much for that. Danita.
A little bit about my background. I mentioned earlier I was in education. I actually had the great pleasure of teaching junior high age students for a number of years, and I learned a lot from it. My background is that I grew up in a small rural community. I went to Carruthers High School. I went to a really small college, and so I've always been in these smaller settings, getting to know people really well and getting to know what needs are really well. You know, when you're in a tight-knit community like that, you really pay attention to people, and you really pay attention to what their needs are, what their differences are, and you learn to appreciate those things because it's like a family. I think one time someone commented that our students are closer than first cousins sometimes because they grow up together in these little communities, and they're in the same grade from 5 years old to 13 years old, and they go off to high school together. And so really getting to know communities and people really empowered me to want to transform lives like the ones that we get to work with every day. And so, I mean, students are the most important work, I feel like, and that translated from my early years to being in these small schools and understanding the importance and values of family and community, and then into what I did with administrative work, and then right on into Bitwise. So I just really appreciate the opportunity that we all have to contribute to the success of other people, and just so blessed to be able to give back and to do those things. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Seeing some
Chris.
common themes here, of course, in the education field.
Interesting.
I'm going to kick it to Stephanie here, who I think is going to give us the trifecta. Steph?
So a little bit about myself. I also grew up in a small rural community. I grew up in Parlier, California, where it was a really tight-knit community as well. And, really found my place, even as a young student, wanting to be involved in like student government, wanting to be involved in building relationships and connections with people and bringing the community together. And I feel like some of those things that I learned early on in my small community, I carry with me today. And in building community here with Bitwise, one of our mantras is no one belongs here more than you. And I really feel like we make it more than a mantra. We make it a point to allow for folks to feel comfortable, to feel confident, and we build a safe space so that folks can come and be a part of this community and really feel welcomed.
Thank you so much for that, Stephanie. I think the biggest thing that I've learned from Bitwise is not only the opportunities that we're able to provide out into the community, but it's also so great to see how individuals are able to come into the space internally and all the growth that is able to happen here as well. So I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about your Bitwise stories and how have you sort of grown in your capacity relative to your roles at Bitwise. Stephanie, you've given us a little bit about this in your intro, but I would love to hear a little bit more about your journey at Bitwise.
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, I was a career counselor at my last employment, and there I'd often encourage students to achieve their dreams, to chase their goals. And then, I happened to run into Irma at one of my students' presentations, and she saw how involved I was in that community. And she sent someone out to come find me and said, I don't know who she is, but the kids were calling her Moreno. Y'all need to figure out how we make her connected. Yeah. And so it was so cool to build that, relationship, that partnership with Bitwise. And then I ended up being offered the opportunity to take a class myself. And I was very reluctant to do that because I was already an established career professional. And I thought, I don't want to take someone else's spot. But it was so amazing that Terry Solis said, why don't you take the class in the name of someone else, and the name of the students who are not able to access this opportunity. And so I was definitely encouraged to want to take it on behalf of someone else. Took the course. Coding was hard for me, and I felt sometimes like, I was too old or too dumb for this or whatever, and felt discouraged. But I had to put my pride to the side and be encouraged by this sense of community. And so many people that were just welcoming to support me and provide, technical support and encouragement as I was part of that. And so, that allowed for me to gain, additional opportunities. And they saw something. They knew I wasn't going to be a developer, but they saw that I had the potential. to activate human potential. And so that for me is how I found myself in this place.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Stephanie. I'll kick it off to you, Jason.
I met Irma through 59 Days of Code. I participated as a contestant for a couple of years. I also won a membership to the hashtag, which is the 24-hour workspace down in the Tower District here in Fresno. And so was able to connect with Irma and got to know her and kind of was on the sidelines as Bitwise was getting started. She reached out to me to come and interview for a contract job, working for a client of theirs, external to Bitwise. Client fell through, but we kept trying to find ways to bring me on board. Either they tried to get me with teaching, and I was already teaching at City College, and it just the schedules didn't work out. So finally, it was another opportunity. I came down to meet with Jake and Irma and Greg, and I just thought it was another contract position. I was late, 30 minutes late. I thought we were just going to hang out. I was in jeans and a t-shirt, basically what I'm wearing right now. And about halfway through, I'm like, this is a really weird conversation. There's a lot of detail for a contract position. I don't need to know all of this stuff to help this client do this thing. And Jake says, this is a job interview, right? You're being interviewed for a job right now. I have no resume, nothing. And, for me, it was a great first taste of what Bitwise cares most about, and that is people. Like the conversation was more, not so much about what I could bring to the team or who I knew or what qualities I had as a developer, but it was what qualities I have as a person. And we really, it's at the heart of everything that we do. Everyone that's here, no one belongs here more than you is very, very true. We really, really want folks to feel a sense of belonging because of who they are, not so much what they can give us, right? We don't treat people like commodities. And so my journey started there, and I got to do just a tremendous impact in the community like I had never thought I would be able to do before. And several different positions within the company, all of it coming back to centering around mentorship and teaching and training. And so what I'm doing now is I'm working on the revenue team, and I'm assisting sales folks and BDMs as they are creating proposals. And I come and I tell the workforce training story. I tell what we have been doing in these contracts and help other enterprise clients understand and see what it is that Bitwise is doing, why it's important, why we have a building, why we care about equity and diversity and inclusion, why those things matter to us. And I love being able to teach other people that.
Absolutely. Everything you touched on, it's a true reflection of what Bitwise is and is all about. And they see those qualities in you as an individual. And I think that encouragement and that empowerment from them, it just allows you to have phenomenal growth. So thank you so much for touching on that. Danita.
My Bitwise story is a little long, but I'll tell the short version. I have been around Bitwise like Jason for quite a while before even being thinking about being an employee. I just really believed in like everything that was happening in Tower and in Fresno and downtown with the movement and Fresno and empowering the citizens of Fresno to do more with their talent. And so hung around a lot. I'm at the hashtag that Jason mentioned, and when Bitwise, the Mural District, came to be, Irma and Jake actually approached me and said that they wanted to offer classes to my students. And this is something that if you've ever been into a rural school district, like you don't just get offered free classes in technology to help you, to help the students like really see themselves in these jobs. And that's, one of the things that we believe in too, is like the instructor before you needs to show you the way and mentor you and represent the background that you come from. And so that's so important to us. But we actually were able to have a class and bus our students to Fresno and do these classes. And so it was life-changing for them. And some of them are in the apprenticeship now or have been in the apprenticeship recently, and which is amazing because they were 6th, 7th graders at the time, and so now their story is still attached to Bitwise and to me, which I really appreciate. But so that's how I started getting more involved in what was GeekWise, what is now Bitwise Workforce Training, and got to see what it was all about, like the things that Jason was expressing about students and people and how Bitwise cares about the humans and activating potential, like Stephanie said. Like that resonated so hard with me because I wanted to be able to continue to contribute to the success of these students, but they were in high school or adults, and it's like, well, I can't really call them up and say, you better get to class. I can't really continue to influence them as much as I try. So being brought onto Bitwise was my Bitwise story here is that I was approached similar to your situation. I was invited to a dinner with my friends. I grew up with Irma, and so I was invited to dinner with my friends. And so I went out with them, and then all of a sudden the conversation was more about like professional setting for me, and they offered me a job, and I was 1000% honored to even like, what are you talking about? Like how me, and similar to what Stephanie was saying, and really surprised by that, and so grateful, but I just wasn't ready yet. So it did take a while to get me to be ready. So a few years later, I actually took the position as the executive director of GeekWise Academy, and transitioned into what is the VP role now. But my Bitwise story was kind of long, but definitely worth it. And I'm so proud and glad to be here, especially with my team and the great work we get to do every day. So, yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. And just hearing each of you speak on that is definitely some common themes of how Bitwise has seen you, not just externally, but the attributes that you have as a person to be a part of this environment, and that consistency,
where do I fit?
Follow up, and that is phenomenal to see. And not going into my story too much, but very similar to yours in that regard. Them being able to see that, being there, and then that conversation, being really particular, and next thing you know, you're in part of this amazing environment, and it's because they saw something in you when you didn't even realize they had saw it. So it's amazing to hear your stories. Danita, you had mentioned in a little bit earlier regarding GeekWise and now being in the form of workforce training. Can you go into a little bit more details in regards to how our apprenticeship program has evolved in your time here?
Sure, yeah. So when I was first at GeekWise Academy, we were running cohorts, same amount of students, but there were much less of them, for starters. We definitely had enough where we knew everyone by first and last name, what their hobbies were, what their interests were, what they did on the weekend. Like it was very. Stephanie still knows that, of course, because that's her job. And we try to, because we love to know, but obviously that's changed because we wanted to grow quite a bit. And so right now we're up to, I got this information from Stephanie last night, we're up to 250 apprentices right now. When we ended before we had to shelter in place for COVID, we were closer to about 100. Where we had 186. So, and we're still growing. We're launching another apprenticeship very soon, or a couple more apprenticeships, I should say. And so the change has been that massive growth. Also being sheltered in place still, to keep everyone really safe. We don't get to see them all the time. So that's definitely new to us. Like we're used to running into them all the time, having these conversations all the time. And now it's a lot more intentional spaces where we want to connect with them. So we're Stephanie's building these places where we can do that and make those connections and continue to get to know our apprentices. And what's really wonderful is that is rubbed off on them too. And they are seeking out ways to connect. They can't, obviously all gather like they used to and, go to any kind of event really that they used to be able to do. But we are still trying to make sure that we have that tightness and community and relationships with our people. It's very important to us. And so with that growth, and with being virtual right now, it's changed things a bit, but Stephanie's worked really hard on making sure that we still have that community and we have those relationships. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and those relationships, the community. I like to call it the sort of secret sauce of Bitwise, and what really makes it special. Stephanie, of course, we heard your name several times in regards to what Danita was mentioning. How has all of this transformed and evolved since your time?
So when I first began, and it was GeekWise Academy, I was really in charge of a whole lot of things. So one man show, doing things like online marketing and recruiting and ordering pizza for showcase night, making sure the rooms were booked, like all of the stuff in the physical sense, and all the logistical things too, like registering students and all of that. Today, like Danita mentioned, we do have the virtual setting, but I feel like I wanted to make sure that we created a space and we took time to make sure that we were ready to create that space when we had to shelter in place, because I wanted folks to still feel connected. I wanted them to still feel like I used to grab coffee, come early and grab coffee and have chats with the cohort members in the mornings, and just talk about life and things, and everything from marketing to favorite recipes to buying Bitcoin or any of the things. So it was really a real personal connection that we got to have with each other in the hallways. And so when we did go virtual, that I was super intentional about creating the spaces so that we had the opportunities to still have those connections, and for folks to still feel intrigued by the courses, and make sure that they still felt the autonomy to reach out to one another and build community themselves. So not just community that was fostered by us, but for them to feel really involved in the ecosystem. And so I think as we have transitioned into virtual, and like Danita said, the numbers have grown tremendously. It's something that I take very personal, to be able to know, a fun fact about someone, or, as I'm getting to meet them, want to know what they like to do for fun and take that into consideration, and oftentimes get teased by the apprentices because they're like, oh my gosh, you still remember that? That was 6 months ago. And I'm like, I do. And I want for them to feel seen, and I want for them to feel like more than just another, apprentice. I want them to feel like we've established, a kinship in this process.
And I want to note with what she said, it's not we want them to feel, it's that we want them to know that that's how we feel about them. So
yeah, and I think that is so important. As an individual myself, and I know with your past experiences similarly, being involved in some types of education environment, the key to that is the community. It is making sure that those individuals feel as though they are in an environment where they belong, that they can grow in, and that you want them there. And I think that that's an extremely important part of what makes this program and what makes Bitwise so special. And you've really touched on that with regards to the ecosystem and the community and the ethos. And I want to kind of double click a little bit on that and actually go over to you, Jason. And of course, being inside of the classroom and the big role you've played regarding that. Can you dive into how you have contributed to the community and to the ethos of the Bitwise Apprenticeship Program?
That's a great question. I think that, it's kind of awkward because of like saying, oh, here's all the great things I've done, and I'm not really comfortable with that.
Do it.
You are great. So there's that.
I think thank you, I appreciate that. I think one of the things, or there's several things that I really work towards when I am working with a new team. And this has been from the beginning, and that is, number one, I want to make sure we build a foundation of confidence for them, helping them in small increments to feel like this, whatever it is that we're teaching, is something that they can do. And making sure that they feel connected to the team, and really empowering students to feel that they're able to solve their own problems as quickly as possible, getting them to, Google it as quickly as possible, honestly. But Googling something is more than just like, you've got to know something before you can ask the right questions. And so getting folks to that place. Also, I love helping folks see their own potential, that this is something that they can do beyond just the confidence in something, but hey, you can do this. This is something that you can take a little bit of time, invest a little bit of time in yourself, and you can completely change the direct trajectory of your life. And then the last thing that I feel I've been contributory to with all of the folks that have come through my cohorts and my apprenticeships is that whatever happened yesterday doesn't have to dictate what happens tomorrow. And today is where you make those choices to create your own tomorrow. And I love that concept that, we we have taught students from so many, just an incredible variety of backgrounds and situations, and seeing that moment where they give themselves permission to let go of what happened before. Just, I'm gonna cry right now just thinking about it, just in that moment, like, God, my life is in front of me and I can do whatever I want. Like, that is what is just amazing about what we do here.
Fantastic, Jason. Thank you so much for that. Danita, if you could expand on how you have contributed to the community and the ethos of Bitwise.
So like Jason mentioned, the cohorts are instrumental, or the apprenticeships are instrumental in ensuring that community is felt like with confidence and promoting who they are as individuals, and their differences are celebrated. And so part of what I do is supporting that with my team and empowering my team to say, hey, these communities are important. Like, what else can we do to be creative and go out and do those things? When we were before shelter in place, Stephanie and I worked really closely together. And so just being able to support her and her ideas and her creativity around how are we going to turn what we did in person to virtual. Like, she was so passionate about that during that transition time, because it was hard for us, not to be able to see everybody every day, not even to see each other every day. And so her creativity of the team has just really driven the work. And so just being able to support them and drive that forward and help them to build those possibilities, make those possibilities come to life. I feel like I've been able to do that. One thing I cannot do, though, is shop for events, because it turns out that I will text Stephanie 100 times, because when you tell me to buy chips for a group of people, I need to know how many chips each person's going to eat before we do that. So Stephanie knows that's the one thing I cannot help with, but definitely it's really great to have creative people around you that want to do all of these things, and then be able to sell that, like, this is what they need, and my team wants to do this, so let's see how we can make it work. So just being a catalyst for that is really important to us and to me. So
and I love what I'm hearing from all of you, because the biggest thing is that I think when people hear about programs such as this one, they think, oh yeah, there's a staff that's going to provide you with these technical skills and they're going to try to make sure that you understand it. But it's so much more than that. It's about understanding and recognizing where individuals are, going to them, recognizing that, and then allowing them to sort of realize that, like you said, Jason, that their life is in front of them, right? And that they can do anything. And to leave all of that they maybe have experienced, or any sort of traumas or anything of that behind, and saying, don't allow those things to dictate you for the future, right? Here is an environment where we can provide you with the skill set, but not just that we can provide you with individuals who truly care about you and want to see you on this journey of success. And so hearing you all sort of touch on those points is just absolutely amazing to see. I'm going to head over to Stephanie for this next question. And what has been the most memorable? And I know you got a lot of memories, Stephanie. Yeah. But what has been the most memorable about being a part of the team that has made an idea into a nationwide program?
I have to say, for me, my most memorable moment here at Bitwise was, like Danita spoke, we were working on creating specialized courses in person, and had targets, and I was chasing after them, at the same time as, spinning 10 other plates. And we were working on building a group of formerly incarcerated specialized course, and was way below my goal that day. And as I was walking into the building, stuff full in hand, there was a group of folks walking in, and they just kept kind of walking in and only holding the door for themselves. And I was like hands full trying to open it with my foot. And a gentleman reached over and said, hey, to the people he was with, and said, let's be respectful. Like, she probably works here. And he's like, excuse me, ma'am, do you work here? And I said, I do. And he said, let me get that door for you. So he grabbed the door. And there was something about him that just called my attention. And I went and met him on his lunch break and was like, hey, what are you doing here? Why are you in this space? Like, and he kind of felt nervous, like, should I not be here? And then I, they invited me in to talk about the specialized course that I was running. And it was, since then, that gentleman has been a part of an apprenticeship. He's now works for us in online marketing and is just doing a phenomenal job. And had he not held the door open, who knows? He would have just kept on walking. So that's one of my favorite moments.
Yes.
We call that story holding the door open.
Holding the door.
Holding the door.
I love it. I love it. And for you to then do that follow-up, to recognize it and not allow it to just simply be a fleeting moment, but to recognize it, follow up on that, and now look at the opportunity.
I get to hold doors open. He gets to hold doors open for folks just like himself.
Exactly. That sort of halo effect of that benefit, and then continuing to provide that to other individuals. It's definitely something remarkable, and I love to see that. Jason, for you, I know you have tons of memories as well as I can hear, because you are all plate masters, as Stephanie has mentioned, but for yourself, memorable.
I think probably the most memorable was the specialized course I taught for formerly incarcerated folks. Most of them had never even really used a computer before, and the course was to teach them how to build a website in WordPress. And we spent so much time going over the basics, and they were so apologetic, and so they felt bad that we had to take this much time, knowing there were other students that knew, and knowing that I knew what to do. But being able to say, no, this is for you. This is your time to learn this. This is your opportunity to absorb this, and being able to get them to feel safe and comfortable and confident to make mistakes, to break it, to mess it up, and showing them how, finally taking them to that finish line where they built the website, and just seeing the look on all their the Zoom cameras, like just blowing their minds, like building that first website. And that's for every first website that we do in all of our classes. That to me was memorable, just how much they appreciated that opportunity. And several of them have moved on to join apprenticeships within within Bitwise, and just super proud of them. I think that's the one that sits in my heart.
That showing that you care, and not just it being lip service, but saying, no, like, I really mean this for you all. I really do care, and let's continue to work these things through. And so for them to see that and feel that, it just means so much. Danita, what's memorable?
I have a lot of memorable experiences as well, but I do recall Stephanie mentioned earlier in her story how they, when we talked about the organic ways we run into each other in the buildings. And I remember I think we might have started to establish this officially, but I'm not 100% sure. But I remember setting up a time where we could meet in the mornings before work and talk to the apprentices and just sit and talk and chat. Mm-hmm. And, when you hear about the apprentices and when you actually get to sit and chat with the apprentices, it's two different things. And the students. And so just being able to unwind, but in the morning, and like sit and digest who they are, what we're interested in. I think one time we were just talking about Netflix shows, and it's really nice to just sit, get to know people, and just chat about yourself and let them see that you're just a regular person that wants to do the work and really know them. So appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think that when it comes to that portion, I think when individuals that we're working with in the community are looking at these types of opportunities, they think that they're so grand that they can be a part of that. But making sure that they hey, we're just like people just like you. And
we like the same shows that you
like, and you can do this, you can do this too. Yeah. It's that human component that makes it so big. And so I really appreciate you all really touching on those topics.
Of course.
I think this is going to conclude our time together. I've truly enjoyed speaking with you all. Stephanie, Jason, Danita, we are truly appreciative, and I thank you all so much for taking time out. And we want to thank you all so much for joining us as well. And remember that no one belongs here more than you. Thanks, pals.